All righty, we are live, and mic and everything seems to be working. So I'm going to jump into this live right now. Welcome to the Creative Pathwork Meditation Series. I am your, not Creative Pathwork, a long week. Welcome to Clear Blue Radiance. This is when you do things live, right? Everything is everything. Yeah. So welcome to Clear Blue Radiance podcast. I'm the host, Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey, and I'm basically here every Thursday, usually at 1 p.m. or 1:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I'm repeating a program from August the 22nd. The program that I did August the 22nd was entitled here Use meditation and visualization daily to create a new life of value. So here I am today. I'm so thankful that I've done this is podcast number 183, and I have in the past 3 or 4 years have repeated different programs, podcasts that I've done previously. And since I was running around a great deal today, I thought I should do that, pull one up from the past. So we're here live, and be sure to put your name into the chat. Tell me hi, how you doing? Golden Timeline 711 made it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm also going to shout out people ahead of time because there are a lot of people who are like regulars popping through. And so we have regulars such as yourself. We also have Jackie Fillmore pops in here. We usually have Holly Hemmett coming in from California. From also the East Coast, we have Barbara Ewing is here. We also have who else comes in? I mentioned Corey, Barbara, Jackie, yourself, Holly. Oh, usually from Australia, excuse me, from Australia, Melanie pops in here. Yes, Melanie comes in here. I didn't get this email out till late. I've been having a lot of tech issues with the Wi-Fi in my residence. A lot of it has to do with the carrier of the internet, and also they seem to have some accidents that go on in this older section of Albuquerque called Los Ranchos. And whenever that pops up, hey, Jennifer, and Jennifer is in here. And so sometimes, we get some, I don't know if it's down lines or underneath the ground, some issues, and then I can't seem to get on. And usually, what happens, I test before, like 15 minutes ahead of time, and then boom, everything can go down, or the mic is not working properly. But today, everything is happening. I guess it's because it's the 31st of October. To some people, this is year end review and projecting what they want to do the following year. Some people have their own system. They might call it the Egyptian burning bowl, ceremonial burning bowl, where they burn their affirmations, their prayers, and things that they're looking to accomplish. I have a list that's ongoing, and it's still not everything in that list is complete yet, but things are starting to happen. Well, many of you know that I've been a spiritual counselor for over 40 plus years. I like to help people gain greater clarity in their own lives, and specifically what is their specific path or purpose they need to be headed. Where's it they need to go? And this is also, yeah, Diwali that day. I think it's my friend who was born in India. I think she said this is a day where there's either prosperity or it has to do with teachers. And she always sees me as her guru papa. Was born in India and she lives. I met her in New Jersey. Now she's living out in Los Angeles, California, with her younger daughter. Her name is Deepika. So yeah, Festival of Lights. So it's this opportunity where there's this continuous graduation that is going on in the ethers around us, and we need to take advantage of it as it comes. Sometimes a lot of stuff we see in the ethers in the news can act as a catalyst to push your light out there further on the path. So I thought I would talk about this particular topic that I had utilized back in August, on the 22nd of August of this year. And what's so important about meditation? Meditation is something now that we need to incorporate at least on a daily basis, or every other day, or every other night, however you see fit to utilize it. But it will help us become more centered and more grounded like we should be. It'll actually open us up to higher dimensional thinking, higher realms of consciousness, not just higher consciousness, but higher realms of consciousness where we kind of reconnect with our higher self. And the more that we are connected to our higher self, the better we shall be. It's time for us to act in the vibration, in the frequency of our higher self. To become more attuned to it and aligned with it will help us eventually draw it into place. Now, the higher self is not living way out away from us. It's another side of us that we have to tune in and bring forward through ourselves. As the beloved Akhenaten said in his book, The Wisdom of Akhenaten, we are the open door. And so life is flowing through us and manifesting itself, materializing itself through us, because we're the vessel right before our eyes, so to speak. And often our life will materialize even without us, digging real hard into the roots, into the foundation to bring it forward. So this is something that we need to pay more attention to now. And again, with all the stuff going on in the world, not just the political stuff, but wars, there's wars we don't even know about that are happening, little skirmishes all over the place. And I don't want to make light of it, but we need to pull our light out as far as we can. We need to become the beacon lights on this planet as much as we can. Do it for your family, do it for your neighborhood, and increase it and let it magnify itself into the our United States, abroad, and so forth. I remember when I used to be a member of the Rosicrucians, and my mother was. My mother was a member, I think, a few years after I was born. I was born in 1952. And I remember when I was 5 or 6 years of age seeing these little pamphlets around the house. So she was like, okay, what's my mom doing here? And what are these things called at AMORC? Being a youngster, I could barely pronounce the name Rosicrucian. So I was like, what's that? And then I'd see another one called Astara. I said, what's that? But she was, I would say Mother Grace was kind of slick. I think she was planting seeds because she already felt that there was something about to be magnified through me. And it did happen when I was age 8 that I happened to have a dream at age 8 of this college. And the thing that stood out in my mind was this white stone bench and a white building behind it. Didn't know what the name of the college was. All I knew was it wasn't high school, it was college. And I remember running into the bedroom with my mom and dad. I think I had it on a Saturday or something. I ran in. It was definitely a weekend, and my dad's looking at me like, "What am I doing here?" Then my mother said, "Hey, he's got something to say." And I was so excited, I began to stutter because whenever I got mad or excited or happy, I would stutter. And I sometimes do it a little bit now, and I'm in my 70s. So I said, I had this dream. And she said, "Dream? What kind of dream?" And I described it in great detail to her. And she listened patiently. And of course, my father couldn't wait for me to get out of there. I must have been interrupting something. I don't know. I'm an inquisitive little kid, but I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So she said, no, that's a vision. And I said, well, what's a vision? She said, it's something that will come true and you will actually experience it. So whenever there were college sports on ABC TV, I was glued, whether it was basketball, whether it was I think they didn't really show soccer. It was either basketball, baseball, or football. So here I was, always on a Saturday, trying to see that stone bench, white bench with that white bench. Finally, at the close of my senior year almost, was it my senior year? Actually, yes, it was my senior year. Right after, just before graduating, the guidance counselor invited this woman from this college. And when my mother sent me outside to grab some seats in the circle, I put my hand out, like she said, to try to feel the vibe. And I felt where she was supposed to sit. I felt where I was supposed to sit to my mother's right. And whoever's sitting in that chair, that's the person that's coming. Well, sure enough, no one sat in that chair to my right. And then when that lady showed up, she sat there. And she opened up the student manual and I elbowed my mom in the shoulder. And I almost jumped up like, this is it. And she said, shh, sit down. And all the other friends, and their parents looking at me like, what's going on? Looking at my mom. Because they knew my mom. Some knew that she was a spiritualist, some didn't. And, I had to sit there on my hands, so to speak. And when this woman pulled this white book out with red lettering, it said Bard College, and it was a black and white picture on the cover. And what was on the cover? It was the stone white bench with a white building behind it. And many years, a few months later, after being selected to go to this college, when my mother and my brother dropped me off, I went for a walk. Now, when we drove up on the campus, I didn't notice the stone white bench sitting on the side in a row with facing the gymnasium and the dormitory that I lived in. From the side that I was on, you could see the bench and you could see the gym. And when I finally went in my room and met my roommates, got to know them, and my mom met their parents, and we were all talking. And then I went for a walk after my brother and my mom left. And I was having all these flashbacks of things that I saw in that vision, especially when I walked behind the library, which from the front part of the building downstairs, I think that was the psychology professors downstairs. And the side where you saw a lot of those benches was a part of the English department and mathematician departments, things like that. So when you come out the front of this dorm from the top floor, third floor, all the way out, you can see the library and further to the right, the president's house of the campus. And I walked behind the library and I started spazzing. I started having these rushes, visions, replaying the vision in my mind, hearing voices. These were the other parts of the vision. Well, also in this vision, and I had told my mom, I said I was playing volleyball at this location. Well, a couple of weeks go by because now we're fully in the month of September. A couple of weeks go by, and it's after dinner from the dining commons, which was around the corner and down a bit. There were some students playing volleyball. So I'm sitting on the side on one of those other benches, stone benches. I'm just sitting there and I'm going like, oh no, this is it. I'm going to experience this vision for real. Seeing the vision, I was called up to play volleyball. And you're watching the sunset come, into play where they're out there. And what they had on one side was what they call the upper college, which was juniors and the seniors versus the lower college, which is freshmen and sophomores. So at some point, I tried to ease out, get off the sidelines, and someone said, "Hey, what's your name?" And I turned around and I almost stuttered, but I said, "Francis." He says, "You're a sophomore?" I said, "No, I'm a freshman." You got to go play. You got to go play with your gang. I said, "My gang?" He said, "You got to go over there and play." I said, "All right." And when I got on that side, now where we're playing right in front of one of the administration office buildings. It was an old Tudor style building, very immaculate in its appearance. So here I am with my back to that, right? And you move up to the net, and where you move up, I forget which side of the net you're on. If you're on the left or the right, at some point you serve. And I was praying that I would not be the guy that's going to be serving. Well, it turns out it was my turn. Well, now I'm huffing and puffing because in the vision, I served this ball as far as I could get it away from me. And somebody returned it to two or three people and smacked it over my head. So, what began to happen was I started having this effect of the vision. And that part that I kept having was when the ball went over my head, just like in the vision, it kind of got away from me, kind of hopped and bounced, and it bounced between two maple trees, just like in the vision. Lo and behold, I was hesitant now because I remember the person I met once I passed through those two maple or oak trees. And as I went through, I felt like I was encased in a webbing. When I went through, now I'm huffing and puffing, and my chest is throbbing, my throat is throbbing, I'm sweating. This is like early fall. It's kind of cool outside. It's about 60 degrees. It was after 5 or 6 o'clock. So the sun is still out, right? And there I am sweating away and sweating away and sweating away. And then when I got out of that web feeling, I had this big ache in my abdominal area around my belly button. I leaned forward, put my hands on my knees, and I looked straight at the ground. And I kept thinking to myself, wow, this must have been the same experience my mom had when she gave birth to my brother, and then a few years later to myself. This is horrendous. I don't know how women deal with this. Am I about to give birth? All these crazy thoughts were going through my head, but it was real to me. And then I see these penny loafer shoes come up in my uh, peripheral vision light in front of me. I'm still looking at the ground. And this guy had on the real penny loafer slip on shoes where you stick a coin on the top of the shoe instead of having the little braided tie, but you could stick pennies in there, whatever you want. And he had two shiny pennies up in there, one on each foot. And he said, "Hey, what's your name?" Because he picked up the ball and I hadn't looked up yet. Now you could hear the kids, students yelling and screaming, "Where's that guy? Where's that guy? Why is he taking so long?" And finally, there I am, stuttering with my head down. And I say, "Francis." And then I say, "What's your name?" And without looking up, he says, "Mario." And I go with my eyes closed, "Mario Bick, Bick. Mario Bick is your name." He said, "Huh? How did you know that?" I said, "When I was about 8 years old, I had a vision of this college. Never even heard of it at age 8. And when I turned 18, got the name of the college. But when I was 8, I had a vision, and you were in the vision. Me playing volleyball, the ball coming over here between these two trees. I felt this webby energy. And then you asked me for my name. Well, in the vision, I didn't stutter. But when I looked up now, here I am at Bard College, September 1970, start of my freshman year. I look up, even before I looked up, I described his appearance. I said, I could see you got on corduroy pants, but you got on a brown corduroy two-button blazer, and you got black leather elbow pads. You got a brown and white window pane shirt. You got these beautiful brown glasses, and you got black curly hair, and you got a mustache. If I didn't know any better, you look like Groucho Marx, literally. Spit an image of him, but you're not Groucho Marx. He says, yeah, people have often said that to me. And I said, you're not from here. He said, how do you know that? I said, I just know you're not from here. In the vision, you were from someplace else. So I told him where I was from. And he said he was a professor coming up, hired by Bard to teach anthropology. And at that point, he said he was an anthropology professor from Long Island at the State University of Stony Brook. Well, Stony Brook was like 2 hours away from where I lived, east of me. I said, I know exactly where that is. And I told him. He said, wow, some strange connection. I said, no, you and I have destiny together. There's something else that's going to transpire. And this is why this all happened. And I said, my late mother told me in advance it was going to happen. And then a couple of months later, I was doing a campus assistant mail person where you go throughout all the, not the dorms, but the offices and the administration office. You pick up the mail, you bring it to the mail guy, and he goes, takes it off to the post office, and then I meet in the mail room, gather that mail, and I distribute it all over campus without a car, without a bike. But I had two satchels and I'm delivering mail. Well, in the springtime, they opened up a work study program. And I went down in near the mailroom and I'm reading this thing. And it says, oh, looking for students to work in a college used bookstore. Sure. And I looked and I see his name. I said, oh, this is the other part. And so what happened? I started getting more psychic. Then I signed up and he was the head of the college used bookstore. And I used to work overtime. He never liked that. I usually work Saturdays and I started working Thursdays. I was working Thursdays and Fridays. So all the students were going back to New York City. So I got all this extra time. So only supposed to work like 4 hours, 8 hours a week. I was eating up the time. I was getting these books. He was taking me all over campus to see these various books in the basement of some of the big mansion type dormitories. And he said, I'm not supposed to have you down here. He said, but did you bring an extra little satchel with you? I said, yeah, I brought my like duffel bag, laundry bag. He said, oh, that's even better. He says, I'm going to show you a section. And I want you to go through that section and take about 20 books. And you can take them back to your dorm. Well, he took me into, which I didn't even understand it, he took me into the metaphysical section. And I was like, he must know something other than what I told him. I said, he must be very much psychic himself. He just doesn't say anything. Well, I got books out of there from Alan Watts. I got all these other, for Ken Keyes, books like that. It's going on and on and on, right? When he put me in the college used bookstore, I was buying up the books at 25 cents a piece. I was carting books home. He said, leave some of the books for the students. Sometimes the alumni come. Don't take all the books for us. I said, okay. I was an art major, but I was saturated by metaphysics way back then. In fact, I took a philosophy course, and part of the course was on metaphysics, but it was so spacey, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it, but I tried. And during that time was in the middle of my freshman year in the spring is when my third eye slammed wide open. It was horrifying when it happened because I was running around the dorm yelling at night, but no one heard me. So my mother explained in a letter that I was having one of those out of body experiences at the same time. Well, that's how one of the ways that I got started with meditation. A guy who wasn't a student on campus, he called himself a military brat, meaning his dad was in the service. His dad was in, World War II, and his, you know, uncles or elders, they were, grandparents World War I. But his dad learned how to meditate and passed it on to him. And somehow, with some things I was going through on campus, he taught me the basics of just sitting quietly in meditation. And I mentioned him in my book, Radiant Heart. I mentioned him as Martin S. He's probably not around on the planet, so I could say his name. Martin Searcy was his name. And he taught me how to meditate in inclement weather, cold weather, rain, and just sitting out in the woods. I had no idea he had other students in the woods too, because I would see people sitting out there, and they were learning how to meditate from him. So, to bring this up to date, meditation is key. You can use meditation to calm your brain, because there we say the mind, right? We're thinking thoughts all the time. Our mind or brain is like a computer into itself. We have the chakras in our body, they're like mini computers. I would call them, let's say, the capacitors on a motherboard. The body is sort of like the motherboard with the brain. However, the controlling factor on the motherboard is the heart. And the heart, scientists say, radiates more voltage than the brain, more electricity. In fact, when people get their hearts checked out, they talk about, electrical energy running through the heart. So they know it exists. They're just unaware that how these things come together to create consciousness, awareness, remembrance. So we have to kind of discover how to use meditation, because it's at the core of our very being. If we can get inside ourselves and begin to pour out what we see, pour out what we experience. So it is essential to our well being that we begin to pay attention. Let me give myself some hearts. Someone says to do that. Well, anyway, what you want to be able to do, you want to understand what is meditation and how can you apply it. And I always feel that if you begin to understand the principle, reasons of what meditation is and how to work with it every day in your life, it will become easier for you to fall into a state of awareness of meditation. Now, get a few simple things out the way. Pay attention to the type of chair you choose to sit in. Is it a chair with a firm bottom seat or a soft, or are you going to sit in a living room couch that's a little too soft? Sometimes you get in those couches, you get real deep, and you have a hard time getting out. Or are you sitting in a firm chair? Or is the back leaning away? Is the back straight up and down, which is a little bit better? Can you put a rolled up towel along the lower part of your back around your waist? Can you do that? Can you fold a towel? Or do you sit in your bed and you meditate? You can do that too. But you want to sit up. Usually, if you lay down, you've fallen asleep in that posture, what, parallel to the floor on a mattress, at least over 10,000 times or more, and you wind up going to sleep. So you try to sit up. Should you sit up with cross leg position? That's yogic style if you want. There's a half lotus position, as they call it, which is one leg forward, one foot forward, another leg tucked in, other foot tucked in toward the pelvis. But not everybody is that limber and flexible in their hips, especially with the hip flexors. Oftentimes, there's a lot of tightness there, so I wouldn't force it. It's kind of better to sit in a chair or get one of those meditation cushions. They're usually plump and round, and you can sit on them. And when you sit on them, it helps with your posture. So that's one way. Sometimes people want to use incense. That might set the tone. But again, if you have some healing, breathing difficulties, incense is not going to help you. If you got some wax, beeswax is best because that's not going to give you any difficulty when it comes to breathing. But you don't really need that. Sometimes we choose crystals or gemstones. That's easier. Can't go wrong with that vibe. You can put a little pinch of salt in a bowl and have a bowl of water around you. If you want to get into the technical points of the four elements and having a candle flame and having candle flame for spirit or fire and water for water and salt or sand for earth and incense for air, you can do that if you choose, because you want to set a nice comfortable ambiance, but you don't need them either. All you need is the magic of your brain dancing with the magic of your heart. So, this is important because you want to be able to locate and bring forth certain abilities that become human characteristics, such as compassion, kindness, beauty, harmony, joy, happiness, tranquility, or if you want to call it serenity. You're working at trying to quiet the mind. Sometimes it is difficult. People say, well, my mind is already gone. Yeah, the monkey mind, the chatter mind, chatterbox mind. Well, guess what? That happens all the time. So you're not going to shut it off manually. You're not going to stand up in yourself and say, be quiet. That's not going to happen. What will happen if you pay attention to the way that you are breathing? That's very important. Pay attention to the way that you are breathing. Are you breathing smoothly? In through the nose and out of the nose? Can you calm yourself by inhaling through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth without trying to hold on to the exhalation after you pass it through your nose, or when you inhale it as far as you can up into your lungs? Do you need to hold the breath? In the beginning, no. The reason I say that because most people can't hold a breath that long. You have to be able to hold your breath for 4 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds. You're going to find out that those seconds get longer and longer and longer because time around you, as you know it to be, gets suspended. You get past the physical walls of thinking and the measure of time, man made time. Your consciousness appears to be floating. Your awareness is floating and expanding. And sometimes you cannot tell the difference between here, now, or beyond, which we call there or that. So you have to work hard to get yourself into the mood of meditation. Some people go for a long walk, maybe 10, 15-minute walk in a park, a wooded area that they're accustomed to going to. Or they take a walk through a mall and then have a seat in the mall. Or go to their favorite cafe. You can do the same thing. Leave enough time for you to meditate and enjoy a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you desire, but just sit in meditation for yourself. If you do it just right, eventually you're going to be drawing people. Usually the ones that come to you the quickest are children, and then their four-legged furry buddies. They're going to show up. Why? Because they can feel the vibe. Go in the park, they got cats, dogs, they're going to feel the vibe because you're radiating this energy 360 degrees, and you're in the center of it. If you sit outside or you sit indoors or you sit on a porch, try to connect or align your breathing, the rhythm of breath, with plant life. Plants and you have this beautiful dance together. And when you're dancing with the vibration off of plants, there's a healing mechanism that comes up with yourself. You can practice various mindfulness meditation techniques. Mindfulness means to give 100% of your attention mentally on the thing that you are doing. People do that a lot. Quilting, fixing bikes, fixing cars, lots of things. People clean the house. You can be in a zone. You can be training for a marathon. You get into a zone with your breathing, and then you just ride off the energy. Somewhere, somehow, you experience these different component parts of meditation. Your whole goal eventually is not just higher consciousness, but to come within the chamber of silence. When you meditate properly for yourself, what happens is everything beyond hearing in the physical begins to lessen. Now, you might be in a very highly populated area, so you're going to hear cars, trucks, motorcycles. You might be in an area where you can hear the train, you can hear people talking, but eventually those sounds become muffled. You can barely hear those sounds. That's a good thing because you can barely hear things going on outside. Then you stand a chance of climbing over the physical wall, getting into that zone towards silence. Now, sometimes if you can't cancel out the noise, then you can play some meditation music. Play it loud enough to infuse with the sound beyond where you are at, beyond where you are seated. And you have to pick something that brings forth a soothing sensation throughout your body and your brain. Because you got to be able to relax. That's highly important. Sometimes through seated meditation in the beginning, it's very hard to relax because your mind is all over the place. You're worrying about bills, you're worrying about an appointment, whether it's a medical appointment, legal appointment. Maybe somebody's coming to your home to, you know, renovate the home. You got to be mentally aware. And I always say, never sit in meditation so long that you don't know what's going on around you. Sometimes when you're seated in meditation, you need to open one eyelid, and start looking around. You don't need to sit if you got food on the stove and it's burning. You want to be consciously aware of your surroundings while you're going layer by layer deeply into yourself. Your meditation doesn't take place outside of you. It takes place on the inside. The late Reverend Ike used to say it's an inside job. Meaning you're tuning, you're aligning, you're checking your feelings. What is it that you are sensing? Do you feel calm mentally? Do you feel your body relaxed and not tensed up? Because all these things come into play. Sometimes your throat will clog. It happens to me. It'll tighten up, tighten up. I'm trying to teach class online or in person. My throat will tighten up. That means there's something there that needs to get blown out, opened up, go deeper, listen more, because that's here is connected to here. And so if you ever experience congestion in the throat and one of those moments when you're younger where you feel like your ears are on fire and the tube going up, that's all connected. The clear audience box you hear with your ears like speakers going in and out, but you're hearing through here. You're seeing across your forehead energy and images deep inside your head, but way down there between your ears is your pineal gland. And then you got that shield over the what's it, hypothalamus, and up in there you got the pituitary gland connected into the crown. All of this is going on. All of this is factoring in to who you are. You're more than just a physical person. You're a spiritual entity that can cross planes, living several timelines at the same time. You're not just focused here. It just so happens that 100% of your energy has been focused into the physical world. And then you may not be aware of these other worlds, these other realms that you're equally living in at the same time. What people call it, I mentioned in one of the podcasts, quantum jumping, quantum leaping. These things we can try out of body experiences. You can check a system called Eckankar, Eckinkar. And the original teacher of that was a guy by the name of Harold, Harold Kemp, Kemp. And then the other student was Paul Twitchell. Paul Twitchell. Twitchell, Twi, Twitch. Yeah, like the guy that passed away, Twitch. Oh, like Mitchell Twitchell, just like that. And that gentleman, these were like the greatest teachers of Eckankar. And they would teach nothing more than the who sound that you could chant that would link you up on a higher plateau with your higher self and the divine realms around you in your auric field expanding. And then it's also having the out of body experience, which they called soul traveling, because they saw it as your soul being like your higher self. And there are many ways that you can look at that. To me, the soul is the bottom rung and the higher self is the higher rung. So the soul of you is between you and the higher self. It's like a bridge, collecting and sucking up information that you will apply later. Higher self is pulling in information and revealing information that not only itself can use, but everyone else can use. So we go through these moments where we are experiencing like a roller coaster up and down through your meditation. Well, also with your meditation, you need something. Yes, the antakarana. Thank you. You're going back and forth with this vibration where sometimes visualization is brought into the picture. Because when we can visualize the energy and experience the energy, that also assists us in what degree that we're on, what level and what degree within that level we are on. You can experience your etheric body as well as your emotional and your physical and your mental body. And what is known as your spiritual body then takes on these other bodies which are connected to all of your chakras. And it's not just seven chakras. Some systems say there's over 352 chakras. Well, if you look at the Chinese acupuncture system, there's 365 acupuncture points and can be seen later as chakras laid out through your body, pinpointing to organs, ligaments, skin, bones, hair, bone marrow, and it just goes on and on and on. So these two things come together. So meditation is the act of finding your center of being. And my question is, being who? Being what? What is the center of your being? In the traditional thoughts of the metaphysical teachings of meditation, going way back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, even 30s, even with Paramahansa Yogananda back in the late 20s. All of this was leading to self realization, God realization, self fellowship, God fellowship, who you are in the unique structure of the universe, that you're not separated. So they create these various pathways and journeys. I've done it too, where it assists one to see from the inside out, not from the outside in. When we're looking from the outside into ourselves, there are many things that's all mashed up and discolored. But when we can stay on the inside of ourselves and using our eyes as dials to tune in, to focus in or focus out, we can eventually experience our meditation at deeper levels, volumes and reams of information materializing, being released from our cellular memory up and through our bloodstream, rolling around through our brain and through our body, but giving us this sense of new life, new light. But when we can use visualization, we begin to see images already created, already embedded in our auric field, already in our muscles, already in our tendons, already in our bones, and so forth. But we can create a brand new image. And as it says in this title, use meditation and visualization daily to create a new life of value. And that's what you're striving to do all the time. You're just going to pull in the different processes of meditation and the different processes of visualization and blend them together. So you can paint a whole new picture. And you can paint a picture like where you're at right now. You can paint a brand new picture. You can put that thing into effect for yourself. What you're striving to do is discover who you are. Let me say that again. What you're striving to do is to discover who you are. What is your real value? What is your real truth? The most resounding truth about yourself. Who are you? Who were you? Where did you come from? Where are you headed to? Why are you drawing or attracting certain types of people or events in your life that seem to hinder your movement? Or where others are wide open to positive experiences and attractions and therefore find their lives expanding out and raising up? Or they find themselves having different alternatives presented to themselves so they can see their way clear. So we use meditation to stay centered and grounded, stay open, and visualization to begin to paint a new picture, a new life, and give it greater value. When you visualize this new life, you can visualize better health, new health, the best of health. You can see yourself in a state of longevity and youthfulness and vitality. You can become ageless. There was a book that Deepak Chopra wrote. I always try to come up with the title, but he wrote that book, I think, back in the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s. And it was called Ageless Time. And I don't think it was Ageless Mind, and something to that effect. Age, mind, and time were a part of the title, but it was all about seeing life differently and prolonging the conscious awareness of who you are and get back to becoming this youthful person with a lot of vigor and a lot of energy. It was an amazing time when he wrote that book. But he wasn't the only one. He got Greg Braden out there. You had Shakti Gawain with her book called Creative Visualization. And she taught you how to use it with finances, prosperity, abundance, health, how you could bring all these things in to your life and feel a lot better. So you have to find a way to connect these new things to yourself. You can use the visualization to paint a whole new picture where you're totally successful and at peace. Linda Garcia, how are you doing? You can see all of this happening around yourself. After all, we all want an exciting life. We all want a peaceful life. We want a life where we are happy, where we find ourselves. We want a life that allows us to strive for a bigger horizon, more expansive life, where we're meeting new and exciting people, or we're meeting up with people we haven't seen in a while, but you notice that they have grown as well. And now you are meeting on a different plateau, having completely different conversation. Will you feel enlightenment flowing back and forth from the both of you? Do you know that when you step onto a path where you begin to feel the presence of spirit around you, things start to shift. You start meeting different people. People from your past pop up and still can't get over that you're different. And they're trying to pull you into what they were accustomed to deal with, the old you. But you're not that person anymore. That person has been laid to rest, and this is a brand new you on the planet. There's this part of you that's reaching out to see and to learn more. So you're just going to get out. Just like if you can drive, you can get out, start driving around, see some fresh faces, fresh environments. I know when lived on Long Island, I didn't want to stay on Long Island too much, but I knew how to get up to the old Tree of Life bookstore. That's how I met Lloyd Strayhorn. I was up there hanging out with the late Dr. John E. Moore. He was known as the hobo herbologist. And he straightened me out quick because I thought hobo meant bum, derelict. He said, I pulled back his little jacket, said hobo herbologist. And on the back had this beautiful design that had an axe and the rake and the hoe and a tree stump and herbs. And it was called the Hobo Society. Men and women traveling on the freight trains when he was younger, older traveling on the regular train, going from city to city, having whole new lives and learning the land, the herbs, the medicinal value of plants and fruits. And he taught that. There's some things of him now on YouTube. I forget who has it, but someone saved those old 8 millimeter film footages and put them into videos, and you can see him on there talking. Very, very knowledgeable man. You see the people around, such as Queen Afua. I knew her before she was Queen Afua, and she was a dynamite sister. That's when she was creating that 21-day retreat for women, working on the womb energy, the woman's energy, and putting it together. And she was, I believe, a yoga instructor up in Harlem and Brooklyn. And I met the Dr. Valentine. They were around each other at that time. Phil, he wasn't doctor then, he was just Phil Valentine. But all these other people that Lloyd has had on his show, I had the pleasure of meeting. Up in Harlem, that place was kicking. I'd go there every Saturday, hanging out at the old Tree of Life bookstore, no longer around, defunct in 1981, but it was there in the 60s. But anyway, it's a place where we sought knowledge, but it was a place where people were hanging out together. That was one of the bookstores where you can bring a cup of coffee and a little donut or a bagel, whatever you had, or some peanuts or whatever you had, and you can sit in the corner and you can take a book off the shelf and read it. But they tell you go read the book, right? Then if you wanted to buy the book, you bring the book up to them and they go in the stock room and pull the fresh brand new book out. So they turn their bookstore like into a library, and then they would teach. Dr. Moore would teach people who were pre-med students from Hunter University, NYU, and Columbia. They're paying $3 a class, $1 an hour to hear him talk about herbs and demonstrate it. He would take you on a walk throughout Manhattan, all the way down to the lower part of Manhattan on a field trip, pulling up all kind of herbs out of the street and in parks and telling you what it was and how to use it. Many things happen. But why am I saying this? Because we have to keep learning. We have to keep absorbing new information. I'm blessed that I'm living here in Albuquerque. I can get around and see some new interesting things that I would never see if I remained on Long Island, New York. There's always something new. But here's the treat. We have to wed The meditation with deep breathing, along with the ability to visualize a new life. Meditation and visualization has a fellow relationship when you're to looking at dreams. Because when you're having a dream experiences, you're learning some things too, and some things may not make sense. They look like out of the ordinary, but you come back to them in meditation, and the little jewels or gems are there. So we have to learn how to work with feeling what it's like to live a better life, a happier life, a life with peace, harmony, and tranquility. We've got to really reach deep inside because this stuff that's going on in the world, it's going to push you toward meditation. It's going to push you toward visualization. It's going to push you into the different healing modalities, whether it's the study of Reiki, whether it's the study of pranic healing, or Qigong healing. It's going to push you in those directions. Whether you're studying martial arts, you're studying yoga, doesn't matter. It's pushing you to push yourself to bring forth the light that you've had there all the time before. So we are striving to be better, not just citizens in the land in the metaphysical galactic sense, they say citizens of the universe. And that's when you realize you ain't the only one. You start seeing some other beings that, wow, they look so drastically different. And those beings are saying, oh boy, this person's living in the past. That's their body. But should I show them my body other than what I'm showing them right now? And you can study all of this stuff. UFOs, all these things, and discover, hey, they're right here walking amongst us, looking at us, morphing into bodies that look like us. People say, well, when are we going to meet? When are we going to eat? When I'm going, well, when the time is right. But some of you might come across them in your dreams. Just like when you meditate, you're trying to figure out the different scenes, the different messages you got. You have to meditate, visualize them. You have to pull out of the meditation when you're done. You got to take notes. You got to describe what you saw, and then you got to do your research because meditation is like a university of the mind. Meditation is a university of the chakras, especially your heart, and how you got to step into it in order to get the information. If you're not stepping into it to get the information, if you're not opening the heart and mind to get the information, you're going to feel like you're stuck. You feel like you're spinning your wheels, not getting anywhere. So you're going to have to read. The key thing is read everything, but read deeply. Meditate on what you are reading. Research on what you are reading. What do you find that's unique, even about my books or Strayhorn's books or his students' books? What is it that makes that triggered you to go to that book anyway? Is there something deep inside of you that needs to come forward in the form of a book? We all have a way of putting it out. I'm not looking to be the bestseller. I'm just looking for the book to get into the right hands. And I'm beginning to see it, meeting people, looking me up. They're having their experiences, and then they find my books online. Just how I put it out there, the seed. They will find my books looking for something else that triggered them either in a dream world or an out of body experience or just contemplating deeply. And those areas are now being serviced and people are locating me. Same can happen for you. You got some nieces and nephews that are into these metaphysical and spiritual things or would like to be? Can you sit down with them and discuss them with them? People may ask, well, should it be Afrocentric, Asian centric, East Indian centric, indigenous Indian centric? You got to find the one that works for you. But usually you're trying to find the one that's connected to you, through your lineage if you can. But look, some of us, like myself, the lineage goes all over the place. Therefore, I'm attracted to all kinds. Used to follow Celtic path, used to follow Merlin path, used to follow unicorn path, fairy path, Wiccan path. There's thousands of pathways all inside that kick forth a memory of who you are or where you're going. You're going to use the one that works right now. You discovered which one that's working for you right now, which one you need to add into it to stir the pot to create a bigger soup so you can be nourished. Because this journey, once you start this journey into the field of metaphysics, spirituality, and everything under those umbrellas, you will realize it is a lifetime of study. It is nonstop. You run into people who elevate you. You run into books that elevate you. You run into these pieces of selenite and other gemstones that help elevate you. You have someone make it for you. You wear it. You wear these different symbols and things to evoke, to bring forth what you already know that's hidden deep on the inside of you. This is why you must use meditation and visualization to expand your awareness, to expand your vision about yourself, to expand your horizons. So you have to, in other words, you get up in the morning. I don't care if you're in an apartment, if you're in a shoebox, if you're in a house. You got to get up and see the world as an extension of where you're at. If you can keep that in mind, that the things around you are an extension of your front yard, your backyard, your side yard, your porch, your attic, your basement, then you're going to see the world differently. You're going to invite higher vibrational people, higher vibrational beings, higher vibrational opportunities into your life. There are people out there say, well, I'm doing the Bitcoin. I want to introduce you to it. But what they have to understand is that may not be your path. It looks like it might be your path, but they don't know what your path is. Only you know what your path is. If your higher self didn't guide you to it, it is not your path. You can explore it, you can play with it, but you're going to find out it only goes up to a certain point. Why? Because when this world fully changes, some of those things are going to change. Why? Because they weren't created by the people using them. Just like a dollar bill wasn't created by you, but it's connected to you. Pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters wasn't created by you, but it's connected to you. Same with the Bitcoins. You didn't create them, but it has a certain connection. But is it where you're supposed to be? Because here's the kicker: you got to do what makes you feel happy. So you can have the greatest wealth in the world. And I've met some people along the way. They are wealthy in this stuff. But when I run into them again, they're angry. They're not happy. They say something is missing. What's that phrase? You cannot serve two masters. You got to decide. There's a lesser master that can help you do some things, but the greater master is on the inside. So you got to reach on the inside and find out who you are. Meditation, connected with visualization, connected with affirmations, connected with decrees, connected with affirmative prayers, it'll free your mind. And you will begin to draw to you those things that you are supposed to work with. And then you can dibble and dabble in other things. But don't be too much into it so that you can't see beyond. As they say, the earth is the playground. We play upon the earth. It is our toy. But you're not meant to play here too long. There's another side of you that's doing something totally different than what you're doing right now. And you got to connect with that part. And you got to meet with that part. And you got to sow that part into your path. And you got to sow the other parts of yourself all the way around yourself back to you. As they say, shamans and metaphysicians and spiritualists and people who are positive in the occult and so forth. Anything that has a beginning surely will have an end. That's the alpha and the omega of something. Anything that had a time when it began, it shall end. Now what? We use numbers and dates and times to describe who we are, but that's not who we are. In essence, you're this immortal being walking around trying to find yourself, trying to create or recreate so you can move on. So you can what? Continue to be free in body, mind, and spirit. Some of us may get free financially, some of us get free with the value of property. Others may not have that, but they're free because they got their health and they have their sanity and not being pressured or cannot be pressured. So we all have to find those paths that work for us. And I suggest that you do not proselytize your path. Don't slap it on somebody. I'm here on a podcast for Resident Essentials, but I'm not selling it to you. I got my own books, but that don't mean I'm going to sell you my books either. My books are just in case you have an interest. Then sell it to you. But I don't be forcing it on you. I might tell you, yeah, I wrote book number 7. Sitting right there, that's book number 7. Excuse me. That's book number 6. But that doesn't mean I push them down your throat because they've been planted into the universe. Whoever's meant to see it will see it. Whoever's meant to buy it will buy it, whether from me or from Amazon or some other place. The importance is that it helps you redefine who you are. So, my question to you, what is your value? How do you see yourself? Are you embracing yourself totally? Are you walking on a path that is healthy for you? Your path may change because your purpose is your path. But guess what? This is changing and the heart is changing all the time. And when they reach their limit and they have a breakthrough, then your path explodes into something different. You're the gateway, you're the doorway. Path explodes into a different arena. And it may not be an arena that contains everything that you were accustomed to. Some of the things you're using now ain't gonna work over in that other arena because it don't belong there. This stuff that we're using now only belongs on Earth. It don't belong outside of Earth, outside of the heart. So I'm not gonna keep you on any longer. I'm glad you were here today. I want to thank Jen Merriman and Golden Timeline, Linda Garcia. I know some other people back there, so I'm going to say, Melanie, if you're in there, thank you. Barbara, if you're there, thank you. Who else? Jackie, if you're there, thank you. Holly Hemmett, thank you. There's so many people in there. There you go. Indigo Moon. She said she's going to be there. I was supposed to create this list so I could just run it off down the list. But hey, this is the 31st of October. In many, many cultures, this is the harvest time and bringing the herbs in, and so they can have the food and sustenance for the winter time. You're welcome, Jen. This is a time where we're regathering. This is a time of great minds coming together. This is a time when you need to connect with your ancestors. Hmm? Usually at midnight, between the 31st and the 1st, they say the veil is thin. You get to talk to your ancestors and loved ones. You can talk to your loved ones and ancestors at any time. You don't have to wait specifically to this time. But the energy veils are thin. You can have a great conversation with them. They can impart some wisdom and knowledge to you. So utilize this energy as you go into the 1st and the 2nd of November. Utilize this energy to pull forth information that you need to know for yourself. Get that beacon light polished up so that you can become that beacon light. So, I'm going to sign off. I should be here next week. I should be here on the 7th, November the 7th. So, anybody's got any birthdays popping, happy birthday to you. Any loved ones connected to you, happy birthday to them. And I'll see you all hopefully next week. I'm going to sign off. Remember that divine grace is a blessing as we're alive and well in the age of remembrance. I'm Brother Francis E. Revels-Bey. And this, of course, is Clear Blue Radiance. Uh, have a wonderful evening, a wonderful tomorrow, a wonderful weekend. If you're on the East Coast, Central Time Zone, and here in Mountain Time Zone, and I believe on the extreme West Coast, your time is going to be set back an hour between around 2 a.m. going into Sunday morning. As I understand, in the state of Arizona, they stay right there, or whatever the timeline is. So they're already an hour behind, but they stay right there all year round. So, yeah, you called me Brother Grancis. Hey, you were close. Grace, Grace and Francis. So everybody have a splendid evening, a splendid tomorrow, a splendid Saturday, a splendid Sunday. And let's stay focused on some higher purpose energy coming in for next week that hopefully will put us in a brighter light that we need. So, however your prayers go out into the world, pray if you can, whatever your intention is, and let's look for a better future for all. And in the meantime, you keep living, you keep exploring, you keep expanding because you're supposed to be here and you're here to expand because the world needs you. The world needs all of us. And the world needs the children because the children need to be in the world to be able to explore and live freely. All right, my grace is your grace. This is Clear Blue Radiance. Hopefully, see you next week, same time. As they say with Batman, same Batcave. And may you all be well. Take care now. And if you have any questions, email me at iam.circleofgrace1@gmail.com. Within about 30 minutes, you can replay this on demand, this particular broadcast. Take care, everybody. Time for me to chow down on some Southwest food.